So just last week, we were talking about how we had a whole bunch of listings for the future of the Walmart exclusive Beast Wars Vintage reissue line for Transformers, and how I had some concerns about the future pricing that was going to be for certain figures, because an issue that I've had with this reissue line has been that they bunch together two different price points from the past into one price point, and it's been, well, in my opinion, a little overpriced. Now, what we had before was Cheetor and Rat Trap debuted when this line debuted, and they decided to put them together in the same price. Even though historically in the past, Rat Trap was called a basic scale, which at the time was $5, and Cheetor was a deluxe class that was $10. In this new world, they put them both in the same price point, and at the time they were charging $22.97 for that, which, in all honesty, was fairly pricey. There was millions of Cheetors in the secondary market of that original toy, and it's not like it was something that was going to be too difficult to find, probably for under $25 to begin with after taxes. And it just led to no one really buying the reissue line because it was pricey and they weren't exactly tough to get. Not to mention that Rat Trap was one of these situations where at $22.97, I mean, I understand that the Rat Trap, so in the secondary market, there's a lot of Rat Traps that are missing their weapons because he had these two little pieces that made his gun. But I mean, man, that was a little pricey. And no surprise, when Black Friday came around, there was bins and bins of that Rat Trap for $9.97. It was no surprise that he went on clearance. Fast forward, in that same price point, we got Tigatron, and it also was in that $22.97. And then when inflation kicked in for this year, when we got Cybershark, he was $24.97, beginning our new pricing for that price point of Beast Wars characters, which they refer to as the mega price point, even though that's confusing in itself because megas were what Scorponok and Polar Claw were back in the day. But I digress. So we're going to talk about today, because now we finally have a confirmation due to some images that have been surfacing online of what is going to be that Terrorsaur. And as expected, it's going to be the original basic scale figure. And in my opinion, well, I think it's not a good thing. As someone who owns this figure multiple times, all its different repaints, all its different tooling, it's a figure that doesn't have a lot of plastic, has a couple of paint decos, and is definitely not a $24.97 price. Now, what also adds insult to injury is, from what I could see from this reissue, there is some paint missing in some areas and just a slight amount added in one area. Now, the added area is because Terrorsaur's head sculpt was originally cast all in red and was painted afterwards. They painted the purple of the helmet, and they painted the white of the face. A lot of times in the factory, what they did is they would paint just the white of the face that was pretty much exposed from the helmet, and the other part of the sculpt of the face, because it's three parts, the face, essentially. It's the face itself, the helmet's actual surrounding area, and the eyes are a different sculpt completely that are also painted. So usually sometimes they didn't paint the sides of the white of the face, and sometimes you could see the red poking from in between. I'll try to post an image that shows a little bit, especially in the lower area. So they completely painted the face in the factory this time around. It's a quick and they just get that done. But the sad thing is you don't really notice that. It's so small. You got to really be looking at the figure under a microscope in a lot of ways. I mean, the images that I'm going to be posting of his face are probably going to be larger than the actual figure itself, physically even. And when you look at the figure, the big issue that I have is the fact that they didn't paint the fronts of his fists. The reissue, for some reason, they painted only a little bit of the fist purple. The rest of it they left out, which is probably the part that's going to be the most noticeable when you have it in robot mode. And it kind of sticks out really weird. Aside from that, it doesn't look like there's any differences. Obviously, it's hard to tell if the hue of red is exactly the same on both versions because of the lighting. My photos are based on my lighting. The photos that are kicking around are probably based on that individual's lighting. So as it stands right now, from what we could tell, it looks like it's just the same figure, but with slightly less paint in one area that matters, and a little bit of paint that area in another area that no one's going to really notice outside of people that obsess over this kind of stuff like I do. Now, again, getting back to that $24.97 price point, the issue that I have also, much like with when Cheetor and Rat Trap came out in the past, I checked eBay right now as of this recording, and you could pick up a Terrorsaur right now. There's one guy selling it 100% complete, the original 95, 96 version, for about $10 complete with the gun. And the gun is the only thing that gets lost. He has this little gun that would store behind his head. Sometimes it gets lost. It's really tiny. It's like smaller than the tip of your finger. I don't blame that. But you could pick one up now, $10 plus shipping. There's another guy here that it's about to sell any second for $19. There's another one here that just sold for $21. Again, and it's a tiny figure, so someone's going to put that in a padded envelope and send it to you, and that's going to be that. So the way that I see it is, if you're interested in this figure and the packaging is not an issue for you, you're going to just open it up and throw away the packaging. You're probably better off going on eBay and buying the original at a fraction of the cost, because this is silly. Because after taxes, depending on what state you're in, it's going to probably come to $26, $27 for a very light on plastic, very light on paint figure. And that's the problem that I'm seeing with this Beast Wars line, is they really should have made two separate price points for the basics, because that makes it very pricey for collectors that want to engage in this. And considering that from what we saw from the listings online, we're also going to be getting Iguanus that's going to be part of this. And Iguanus is probably going to be that original basic scale, which is also a tiny figure, except in the difference in the case of Iguanus, he never loses his accessory. And there's plentiful amounts of them. He's not a show character, so the demand in the secondary market for that original toy was not as big. Yeah, I don't know. That's just my take. And also, again, this wave is also going to have K9. I think K9 will, again, that one will make sense for the $24.97. That's a beefy deluxe figure. It comes with a bunch of accessories and projectiles and is just a decent figure in all honesty. That one works. But again, that one was originally a deluxe back in the day in '95 for $10. I could accept it for the $24.97 that it'll be today in the current inflationary market. Not to mention complete K9s in the secondary market of the original '97 release also go for pretty decent money complete, because of the two missiles and his shield and his gun that easily get lost and everything. So the way that I see it, like, that one makes sense. But these basics, man, like Hasbro, you need to create a separate price point. I know you don't want to have to ship separate cases and stuff like that, but that's really pricey for people. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad because right now you could just go on eBay and probably get it cheaper. And the color schemes on these are not so different that it justifies going out and buying the Walmart one, the reissue. Not to mention the fact that in the case of this Terrorsaur, there actually is a little less paint than before. So this is probably going to hit the bargain bin, or it's probably going to go on clearance historically, like a lot of other of these reissues have in the past. And it's a little bit of a shame, because there's opportunities to make money here as a business, and combined with the fact that you still don't have a Beast Wars movie on, in theaters right now to kind of create that impulse purchase, you're pretty much relying on just hardcore fans right now, and people have nostalgia from the past to pick this up, and you're going to alienate them at $24.97.